Welcome everyone to episode 1 of the Grimm Weekly, because last week was episode 0. And per usual, all the thoughts in my head are swirling around, and I'm just going to chat. And we'll see how it works out. Hopefully it'll be fine. I kind of thought about making a list, but and in my head there's a bit of a list, you'll see. So just, it's been a week since I last chatted with you guys, with everyone. Thanks for the comments and email. I got one email about what am I? What am I? The eternal question. And of course the answer is, for people who don't know, I'm a German citizen who has lived in the States for almost 40 years, 87, and has never become a citizen, but might one day. Plus, I'm not really German because I was born in Australia and grew up there until I was 12, and then we moved to Germany, and then I moved here. So I'm German by citizenship, Australian by birth, and mainly American because I've been here most of my life. So let's face it, even though my students say, oh, you don't always sound American. Let's see. So I'm looking at what I read. Yes. So I'm slowly making my way with the Stifter. The strange, well, it's strange because it's Stifter, but it's basically not that strange. It's like a very sort of traditional novel about the biography of this doctor and it's being read by his great-grandson, and because the great-grandson found these papers in the folder. Die Mappe in German. Die Mappe is the folder, and it's very sort of quaint. And so Stifter's dates are early 18, and he died 1868, and even though it was self-inflicted, it's because he was ill. He was feeling poorly physically. Liver cirrhosis, I think. I know he was an indulger of food and drink. And so it's sort of like one of those suicides where it's going to be, he just wasn't feeling well physically. So it's sort of more understandable, even though the way he did it was kind of gruesome, which I won't get into now. Let's see. And I'll talk more about this. So the thing about Stifter is, even though he's not that well known, most of you probably have not even heard of him, but now you have because of me, perhaps. There's a lot of scholarship about him because people are obsessed with his, on the surface, very sort of harmonious. And so his dates, as I said, he died in 1868. He was born before 1810, so 1808, I think, or 1806. So he didn't really live very long. And so he's connected to the movement of what in German is called Biedermeier, and that's sort of like post-romantic, going into Victorian, but not quite Victorian, like pre-Victorian sort of, and it's associated, there's a sort of culture with Biedermeier furniture styles, a retreat to the family, and sort of prettifying your life, almost kind of romanticizing, even though this is not romanticism. So Biedermeier is it's sort of deliberately apolitical, and so he does kind of fit in with that, with his sort of emphasis on harmony and sort of family values. Tradition is a big thing, and yet there's something else going on with his stuff. It's kind of, and that's what intrigues a lot of the scholars. I've got a graduate student from University of Chicago who won an award for her article about Stifter. I downloaded it, and I will tell you more about it as we go into it, because this is going slowly because me being distracted and doing silly things instead. I have several other sort of hobbies that I do. One of them is where I write postcards to people across the world, and then they send me postcards back. It's called postcrossing. And I've kind of developed a system where I do one a day, not to make it too onerous, and it's still kind of fun. And then the other thing that I'm kind of torn up, it's my ancestry. So I have a big tree on ancestry.com. Thousands of people are on there, and it's almost addictive. Like, I should just stop. I don't really need to be adding 10th cousins, which I am doing right now. I mean, why? Because you kind of get into this thing of wanting to figure out the lines going backwards and forwards. And so I probably have too many people on there, and occasionally I will call people who are just too. But if it's a straight line of cousins, I kind of don't mind that they're very distant. But it gets kind of silly, and I have had a few people saying, "Why have you put my father on your tree?" And I have to write back, "Because he's a 7th cousin," which is silly. I mean, I don't know if it's silly, but I just feel that I kind of need to sort of, that it's almost like I can't stop myself. That's the feeling. And so that's silly. So that's ancestry, my other hobby. And so all of these other things that I do, including stupid phone stuff, scrolling a little bit, keep me from reading more than I would like to. Like I have, the most I read on one day was 30 pages, which is nothing compared to all you people who read tons of books a week. And so anyway, that's my excuse for it being slow. And then I finished, let's talk about the audio that I finished, which is David Gustafson's Snow Falling on Cedars. And I meant to look up, because I have this bad thing where I forget the endings. It was sort of like, so the main bad thing that was going to happen didn't happen, so it was sort of a happy ending in that sense. And as I recall, but I'm not sure if it's true, I think it may have ended with the main narrator beginning to write the book, kind of like sitting down to set down this memory that we now are reading. That circular thing. I think that's how it ended. And there's a sadness there because it's sort of a unrequited, or there's a sad love story. And it was, throughout the book, it was quite solid. The writing, and actually the ending, I think it didn't disappoint. In a way, it kind of made the book a little bit better. It's still, like, for me, I think I just gave it 4. That's my sort of, this isn't bad, this isn't great, this is a 4-star book. For me, 3s are kind of disappointing, and 5s, I give quite a few books that if I completely like the book, I give it 5. And so this was a 4 in between. Like, I know this will be a 5, the Stifter. I love Stifter. And so that's that. And so I needed a new audio, but I honed in on, I was sort of thinking about a book that I have as a book, and I think it will work both as an audio and reading. It's my first David Mitchell, the British, very well thought of British writer. He's written 9 novels now. He's actually 5 years younger than me. And fun fact, he's apparently the same birth year as Mariah Carey, 1969. And I'm 1963, so that's 6 years younger than me. Oh gosh. And very well thought of. And I think Sonia from Enthusiastic Reader said that in terms of the world that he's building, this is where to start. So, and I think I'll enjoy this. It's just, the opening's very sort of startling. It's, if you're queasy about, let's call the midwife stuff, like what they have to do a lot of the times, it gets into the nitty gritty of that, but it's really well done, and I liked it, but it's kind of, so if you know about Call of Midnight, you know what I'm talking about. The first chapter is all about something to do with that, but it's already very interesting in terms of the Japanese versus the Western. And this, I do remember when I was a kid, fun tangential fact was my mother telling me about anti-Japanese attitudes. So it's actually kind of interesting how it kind of connects back to the cedar one. Oh, didn't even realize that. Oh, so there's a through line there. It's funny how just doing the video made me realize that. And she had a interesting take. First of all, she's a New Zealand person from the Second World War whose father died at the hands of the Germans on Crete in 1941. So this is ancestry knowledge, and also just from her telling me about it. And then she marries a German person, 100%. By that time, her mother had passed, and she's pretty sure the mother would not have approved of her marrying a German person. And then, of course, the Japanese people in Australia and all that. And she ended up actually working for, not the embassy in Sydney, but the sort of pre-embassy called the Japanese Information Center. She was their non-Japanese person there. She loved working there. She loved the Japanese colleagues and thought they were also wonderful and interesting. Started learning the language. It was a job that she had to take to help pay things because the writing wasn't bringing enough in, per usual. I mean, that's just how it is for most writers. And where was this leading to? Sort of sentiments against the Japanese. And so that's how I sort of would get little bits of information. And one thing I remember reading about with the Japanese is how they did shut down towards Westerners for a couple of centuries, and I don't remember when exactly, but this is when this is taking place, when I think that there's a ship of people from the West, from England, and they're not being allowed in. Like, they really kind of warded off Westerners for a long time. And that's a sort of an interesting setup, I think, for when this is taking place. And I'm just at the very beginning, and this will also take me a while, so you'll hear more about this as I go into it. and plus my beautiful paper blank bookmark from when I was last in Germany. Fun, fun, fun. So I think this will be good. I feel good. I feel good about those two things. Let me see what else there was. Last week on the Thursday, the day I actually made the video, I'm going slowly through my emails, and I am subscribed to certain things, Substacks. And one of the publications I'm subscribed to is called Nautilus. And it's sort of like popular sciencey stuff, just the right depth for someone like me who's not really a science person but likes to read about things. And I'll tell you what I read as I go through. The only thing I read that I wrote down here was something about whales. Whales run aground by the sun. It was about why do whales run aground? And as I recall, the theory is, they're still not quite sure about it, but they think it may have something to do with sunstorms or something to do with the sun messes with their orientation systems. I think that's what it was about. Very interesting. I like whale stuff, to a point. And so I read that. My two purchases this week are kind of strange. I get influenced by things. I mean, they're not strange, but they might seem strange as to someone who's reading Stifter and all these things. And then I kind of like, don't bring it down exactly. I wouldn't say that, but I have eclectic interests, let's put it this way. And so the first book I bought on just Kindle on the as an ebook. I was kind of influenced a little bit by TikTok, but then also just looking at it. I'll put a picture of it here. It's called the Autism Self-Care Book. And I have self-diagnosed myself as perhaps on the scale. And to be honest, I don't really care if I'm not really autistic or if I'm a strange autistic, even in terms of how it's, because I'm not typical, I'm not sort of, but a lot of the stuff is about sensory overload and anxiety and all these things that I just respond so well to. And it's sort of one chapter, which I have to go back into it and read it more carefully, was about establishing safety in terms of your sensory overload so you don't get overloaded. I am going through this phase where smells, and I live with cats. I've maybe mentioned this before, and that's kind of hard for me. Hyperosmia or something, where so that's one issue I'm having. I've always been noise sensitive since the get-go. Since I was a kid, loud noises. When people walk in, I get so caught up in everything that I just kind of like jerk, and it's very sort of weird to the person too. They don't mean to do that, but it's happened quite a bit. And light to a certain point too. So light and noise and smells. Not so much texture. I'm not or food. Not really. Not as much. But anyway, the book was not that expensive and it's useful. It's like a little self-help book for me. And then the other one I pre-ordered, and I'm sure some of you know her. I think her name is Miranda Mills. She's like the quintessential British cottagecore YouTuber, booktuber, and her book is coming out, and I pre-ordered it. I think it's called The Country Commonplace, and it's one of these through the years books, and I just am a sucker for those, and it's cute and comforting, and I just thought I would get it. It's sort of going to come out at my birthday in September, so I thought, what the heck, I'm going to buy that. So those are the two books I purchased during the week, and this will also be kind of like accountability for that. And then the last thing I kind of signed up for, again, this is another subscription, like a journal. I signed up for the $5 a month Lit Hub, so literary, where they give you I wanted to read about David Mitchell. There's a good interview about him on there, and I do like Lit Hub. Maybe I'll even get the tote bag with what's her name on it, Joan Didion. So I think that's all in terms of sort of purchases type things. And it's funny, I think this one was already on the Audible. We must be signed up for something, because I don't think I had to pay for this, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And is there anything else I need to talk about? Well, just sort of at home stuff. They're putting in a new street, which is going to be disruptive. And before they do that, we have to pay to have them put in a new side, the curb. We're paying for our own curb redoing, and they're in the midst of it. Here, another picture, the cutaway of where you see where they took it out. And of course, in the mornings, the kitties are like, what's going on? There's noise around here. And that's kind of funny too. Oh, it's a bit disruptive. And I think I've kind of rushed through things, haven't I? But that's okay. It'll just be like that because I sort of have everything right here. Is there anything else I wanted to say? I don't think so. I sort of feel like I haven't given you enough about the Stifter, but that's okay. Maybe I will try and take some better notes for you next time and give you more of a rundown. He led an interesting life. It wasn't very joyful. There was sort of a love interest that didn't respond, and then he married someone else, and then they didn't have children, so they had to bring in. They actually sort of looked after nieces. And there's one sort of mystery in his life that I think kind of helped precipitate sort of a depressive state, is that one of the nieces ran away from them. See, I don't know why, what's going on there, and was found unalived some weeks later. So there's a sort of a mystery of what happened to this niece. So I think I want to find a straight up bio of him, like more detailed bio that kind of goes into what kind of person he was. The little bit that I found out is that he was, he's a pedagogue, he was a teacher, he was committed to traditional values in a certain sense, and he was sort of on the side of the revolutionary people in 1848, but then he's not someone who would be an activist or a radical person. He was like the most unradical person you can think of in a certain sense. So, and yet there's something else going on with his writing. It's sort of fascinating. Plus the fact that he was also a painter, quite a good painter of landscapes, like this one. It's quite nice. Maybe I'll make that the picture of the week. I think I'll let you all go. Thank you all for watching and responding, and tell me how your week's going. I'm slowly getting back into watching, and I'll comment more. And yeah, see you next week. Bye.